Last week, we were challenged to choose between what we need and what we want. And we were reminded that this is not always easy because it's hard sometimes to differentiate between the two. So this week, as I was discerning, I contemplated those things and people in my life that act as guides towards or distractions from the hope we need and seek in the love of God as revealed in and through Jesus Christ. And as I did, I began to notice something that at first really troubled me. Mostly because it created more confusion than anything else. As I tried to separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, I found myself calling more things wheat than I had anticipated. Instead of reducing that pile of things that I think I really need and getting down to what is really, really important, I actually found that pile starting to grow. Now, my wife would say it's because I have trouble letting go of things that are good. And she's right. It took me years to let go of a fully functioning RCA Betamax VCR. I still have my old 386 SX laptop. Books that I will never read. And if you look at my workbench at home, I have a series of coffee cans filled with nuts, bolts, and screws that I have collected over the years, just in case. Now, I'm not a hoarder, but I don't think I'm the only one here who struggles with downsizing those things we think we really need. Why? Because when we look at something, or someone for that matter, what we see is more than just their physicality. We are reminded of why they are special in the first place. Take, for instance, this coconut. It comes from an island in the middle of the Indian Ocean called Diego Garcia. And when I look at it, I am instantly reminded of a really exciting time in my Air Force career. Our mission and my time on that island gave me a sense of purpose like no other assignment in the Air Force had done. Something else my time on that island did for me. It gave me the chance to put life in perspective and to truly discern God's call to ministry in the church. So I cherish this coconut because I cherish the memories. And because I cherish the memories, this coconut's hard to let go of. Hard to set aside. There's an old saying that comes out of our gospel reading from last week. Use what we have been given wisely, enjoy it now, because we can't take it with us. And it's true. We come into this world with nothing. And when we leave it, we leave with nothing except maybe our memories. If that weren't so, how would we recognize those God says we will once again be reunited with? How would we know who Jesus is when we meet him? How would we know, how could we comprehend the fullness of God's love finally made known as the writer to the letter of the Hebrews describes? We couldn't. Memories are important. Memories are not only the lens we see life through, they also help shape our lives. And to understand how our brain decides which memories to keep and which ones to file away has been a scientific quest, shall we say, for a really, really long time. And while the scientists may have figured out how the old noggin works, how it functions, they still struggle with the question of why this memory and not that one. I suppose if they ever figure out a scientific answer to this, then humanity will do away with every bad memory and we will all live in Shangri-La. Well, I'm sure there are some memories many of us would really like to get rid of. We can't, because they are part of who we are. And in Jewish tradition, it was how a person lived on once their mortal bodies were no more. This is partly why the genealogies and some of the family stories we run across in the Old Testament are so important to them. It's also one of the reasons why the German death camps were so devastating to the Jewish people. Because in the end, there was no one left to carry on the memory of those who had died. Once the memory died, so did they. Maybe that's why we find Jesus' words so comforting. We place our faith in God's promise that God's love for us will never die. Therefore, neither will we. Realizing who we are is not limited to this earthly body alone, gives us hope that extends beyond this world. So when Jesus reminds us that the coconuts in our lives are just coconuts, he is reminding us that what is important is not the things that we can hold on to, but the things that make us who we are. And in part, that includes our memories. Our memories are in us, not the coconuts we cherish. And I would argue, not just in our brains either. Because in the end, all those things wear out. Our memories rest in the spirit that dwells within us. A purse that can never wear out. And that holds a treasure that money just can't buy. It holds what makes us us. What makes God God. And what enables us to know one another throughout eternity. Now, knowing this doesn't make the sorting before us all that much easier. Our tendency is always going to hold on to those things that we cherish. But it does help us to put into perspective the notion that the things we have, the coconuts in our lives, are not as important as what we really have. The Spirit within us. The same Spirit that guides us towards the love of God revealed in and through Jesus Christ. Then takes that love and makes it part of who we are. Because it then helps us to live on. It helps us to see that who we are lives on because we are not limited to the physicality of this body, this world. But we are part of something infinite and eternal. We are part of God. This is a memory that will help us get through the tough times in our lives. And a reality that will help us better differentiate between those things that guide us towards and distract us from what we really need. Awareness of God's love in our lives. An awareness that enables us to trust in God and not in ourselves or the coconuts we cherish. Amen.